I now call the East Lyme Zoning Commission regular meeting of December 4th to order at 7:28 p.m. Could we start with the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't like these chairs.
You want another chair? Because I had to switch chairs too.
It's okay. I mean,
An official,
I like this
go
part.
ahead.
This part.
An official welcome to Kathy Uhas, who's joining us tonight.
Welcome, Kathy.
Welcome.
I'm here, Ms. Kalal,
Yep.
Mr. Pack, Ms. Markovitz,
Yes.
Ms. Uhas, Ms. Jet Harris.
Yes.
Is Mr. Liska here? No. Ms. Susko and Mr. Edwards. We have Mr. Mulholland.
Here.
And Ms. LaRocco. And Ms. Hardy, our ex officio. Well, first thing on the agenda is the annual election of officers. So Ms. Hardy will.
Ms. Hardy's going to defer to me. I'm a little
Okay.
rusty, but I will try to do my best to proceed with the election of officers. As we know, the chair will be first, and then the chair will run the meeting for the secretary. So the first order of business is to take any nominations. Excuse me. Do we want to do by show of hands, or do we want to do it by ballot, paper ballot?
Show of hands.
Okay, with that out of the way, I'll proceed to take nominations for the chair of the zoning commission.
I nominate Ann Thurlow.
I second it.
We got a second, thank you. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, Ms. Thurlow, congratulations. You are on the chair, and I will turn the meeting over to you.
Well, thank you. I think I have it in me for one more year. Next, we have the election for secretary. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Nancy Kalal.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? We have our secretary. Congratulations.
Thank you both for all that you do. Ann, you went and had to testify in court, and Nancy, you've had to do some things too, so thank you both for your service.
Thank you. Well, thank you all. I know it takes a lot of everybody's time. Tonight, we do not have a public hearing. We have a regular meeting, and I believe the only thing on our regular meeting is to decide if we want to move ahead with any type of zoning for short-term rentals. And Ann Santoro has graciously agreed to come tonight in case you have any questions. She probably knows more about them than anyone in town by now. So she's here to answer any of your questions. I don't know if you want to start by going down the row and giving opinions or asking Ann questions, or I feel like we either need to fish or cut bait. Like if we feel we need to do something with them through zoning, let's agree to move ahead with the text amendment. If we don't think we should do anything, let's decide that. But it's been hanging around for a long time. So.
Well, we are just discussing a description tonight. Is that correct?
No, we've already voted on the definition of short-term rental in the previous meeting, and the text amendment passed. And so tonight we need to decide if we're going ahead with the text amendment to allow them in certain zones or not. And if we think we need to do that, then, you know, either myself or one of you can get together with Mr. Mulholland and write up a text amendment. But if no one thinks we should move ahead with the text amendment, then we won't. So, you know, it takes a vote of 4 to move ahead. So I'd love to hear everybody's opinion.
I'd like to talk to Mrs. Santoro one more time and ask her some questions,
Okay.
just to kind of refresh, to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly.
That's what she's here for. So
I have some questions to ask her.
okay, great. Thanks for starting us off.
Okay.
Hi, Mrs. Santoro.
Ann Santoro, 11 Rose Lane.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming again. I know you've spent a lot of time on this, what, a year and a half roughly, and you were the co-chair.
Yes.
I did read the very informative short-term rental survey that you had given to us, or information. I don't know, what was the name of it?
So, we
The
did-
report, that's it.
The report, that
Okay.
final report.
Yes. I did read it. It's very informative. But one thing that I wanted to really ask you, because I hadn't had a chance yet, I read all that, was what was your opinion on the participation from the community? Because there was several public hearings, there were several
Right.
meetings that people did attend, and they did speak at public delegation.
Right.
So what would be your opinion on the participation from the town of East Lyme residents?
Yeah, well, I would say it was reasonably good, and only because I think we had multiple public hearings. We had an initial public hearing when we first got started, and that seemed to be heavily dominated by owners of short-term rentals. And then we repeated that again. We repeated a public hearing in January. That was the fall. Then in January, a few months later, we did another one. And then by our charge, by the Board of Selectmen, we were supposed to have at least 2. So we already had covered ourselves. And then we were supposed to do one close in time to coming up with a draft of our recommendations. So we did one at that point. So there was a lot of information. By the third public hearing, there was more information. I thought that was probably the best. Maybe Ann would agree with me on that, where it seemed, I think in that room, it was literally a balance between owners and others, and the opinion was really pretty balanced. Another thing that we did, we always recorded all of our meetings. There was always delegations at every one of our meetings, so if someone wanted to weigh in on any topic on short-term rentals, any aspect, any issue, they could do so. We also had an email system set up on our webpage, so we would get questions that way or comments that way. So I feel all in all pretty good. And remember this whole process spanned. The actual work was 14 months, but the process actually was longer because we had to wait about 7 months. We had to stop work, do the status report, wait for the Supreme Court decision, Connecticut Supreme Court decision, and then pick up again. So this covered a good amount of time. It wasn't a short existence of our committee. So looking at it that way, the number of hearings and everything else, I think it was, reasonably good.
So they were well attended.
Yeah, I'd say so,
The
generally
ones-
speaking.
The ones that I had attended myself, there was a lot of residents that showed up. But a lot of the or the people that owned the short-term rentals, the corporations or the people that owned them, they were not residents of East Lyme.
So, we encountered that. I think that was a mixed bag. Whether if an owner was, we have owners in town who live in town, and we definitely have some owners that do not live in town. So I think I saw about an equal share there. To me, it was it felt like about a 60-40, 50-50 almost. But I couldn't say for sure. But yeah, for sure. Some of them lived in other towns in Connecticut, or they had family originally, in the beach communities, and then they've moved out of the area, but they maintained the family home in Niantic, which then became a short-term rental. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
First, we've all read your work. In a nutshell, what is the bottom line recommendation of your committee?
Yeah, so thanks for acknowledging that there was a lot of research, a lot of analysis, a lot of give and take, 8 members on that committee, and everyone had different opinions. But we did agree on certain things, and what we agreed upon is in that final report. So the bottom line is that we say acknowledge short-term rentals, recognize them as an alternative to traditional lodging, but however, they need to be regulated, and the regulation would come primarily through zoning. So zoning has a key role, and that's outlined here in the report. And one of the key concerns are to mitigate any negative impacts of short-term rentals, and those are outlined here, they're outlined in the original report. You would need to think about how to limit their growth. And that's covered in one whole section in this, of how to do that and how other towns have done that. And then beyond that, more routine permitting process, where you incorporate the ways that you're going to limit them, and then you incorporate things like, let's say, inspections, routine safety inspections, or other aspects that you would like to somehow regulate, whether it's the number of people, whether that's going to be tied, the number of people per short-term rental, that would be tied to, let's say, the assessor's card or whatever is number of bedrooms in the short-term rental, things like that. And then you have to think about enforcement. But if you look, I know when I was preparing to come here this evening, I was thinking, what would be the most important thing I could tell you about short-term rentals? And I just wanted to refresh your recollection. This is section 11 in this in the final report, and this tells you that when you're coming up with a policy, that you have a purpose that's stated. And if you look at the bottom of page 13, this is where this appears, the bottom of page 13, there are 5 little, sub-purposes, so to speak, or purposes. And I thought this was a good summary that if you're beginning at the beginning of this process, which you still have to do, even though we've done a lot of research that helps you and all that, but if you're trying to get a handle on it, this is a good place to begin. Ask yourself, if I'm going to regulate, can I cover these topics here? So the first one, for example, is recognizing that they are an alternative to traditional lodging. The second one is trying to ensure public safety in their operation. The third one is to maintain stability and community in residential neighborhoods. That's a big issue, right? And the fourth, to try to mitigate their adverse impacts. And the fifth one is based on your own zoning regulations in your own preamble, which is to encourage the most appropriate use of land throughout the town consistent with your zoning regulations. So those are kind of like guiding principles a little bit. So, I mean, there's many guiding principles that you can use, but definitely I think that's a good starting place. And, there's a lot in this report to help you, a lot of references, I think. We went through some of them when we did the presentation back in June to your board. I think take a look at those because we do highlight what would be a preferred approach. So, for example, the town of Groton has an elaborate set of zoning regulations. You don't need all of those, but there's some really good stuff there. So those are ones to look at. The town of Preston dealt with that issue of trying not to have short-term rentals in residential communities. And how can you go about doing that and still respecting the right to rent one's property, right? So I think looking at towns like that, trying to update what we did, you can have some quick conversations, perhaps through Mr. Mulholland, with some of those other officials in those towns, and you can find out how has it been working out, because those are very recent examples. Preston, did a new set of zoning regulations in the fall of '24. So now there's some history there. Groton, it's a little bit longer in time. So you'll get a sense of, did these regulations make sense? Did the permitting make sense? How's the enforcement going? Those are questions that, you'll have to answer. But I think that's, that would be kind of it in a nutshell. And I think, I know I covered a lot of ground there, Norm, but definitely there was no ban them and no do nothing. We were in that in-between world of, okay, but we got to regulate them. Yeah.
I think I know the answer to this next question, but
Okay.
in zoning, there are instances, quite common, that you come up with a regulation that may cause nonconformity with existing properties.
Mm-hmm.
For example, a Morton house. It's nonconforming. What are we going to do? We're not going to tell them to stop doing business. Would you say that we should pick up all the existing short-term rental operations and make them come before us and get a permit?
Yeah.
Or would you just permit new ones?
Like going forward. Yeah, I think you're going to have I think this is something we discussed as a committee, and Ann will remember this, the grandfathering aspect of it all. But there's a test within your own zoning regulations for pre-existing non-conforming use. And you have to establish something over time. It can't be just a one shot. We just established this STR, so this, it's got to be over time and a consistent use, right? I don't really know the test exactly, but I think I'm in the neck of the woods, right? Bill?
Yes.
I think the thing with that is, were they ever legal to begin with? So could that qualify as a legal pre-existing use?
The town of Greenwich says short-term residential rentals such as boarding houses and rooming houses are separate. They don't include them in their short-term rental regulations.
Yes, so that's a very good point, Denise. I think for sure the world has really kind of separated itself. I mean, in our own zoning regulations in town, we definitely have bed and breakfast, and we've got all other kinds of lodging specifically addressed, right? But we haven't addressed short-term rentals.
Yeah.
The difficulty is the Wibby decision, because it created the possibility that even though we don't expressly permit short-term rentals in East Lyme, that we legally may have to have them because we haven't said otherwise, and we haven't, addressed the issue. That's why addressing the issue certainly helps, because you clear the air on whether you have them or don't have them. But I think Mr. Mulholland's had some interesting history there in, let's say, in Noank, when the short-term rentals were banned, then this many times conversion to longer-term rentals, or just not having them anymore. So there's things that can happen that aren't necessarily having to grandfather in. But it would happen even with an ordinance. If you were to have a blanket ordinance that covered the entire town, to me, you're still going to have some some popping up. Let's say East Lyme banned them by ordinance. I still think you'd have some issue of, well, this is a pre-existing whatever. So it's possible. I may not be 100% on that, but I don't think just because you're doing things by zoning and not by ordinance if you do it by ordinance, I don't think you escape that either. And that brings me to another topic, if I could just say, this ordinance versus zoning thing, is hanging over our heads for so long. But, I think we, in this report, respected zoning as the appropriate vehicle for land use regulation. And I think the big thing in town, as you all know, we have 3 beach communities, 3 of the 8 communities that have their own zoning. So if there is, an ordinance, it would supersede all of that. So that was one of the reasons why we directed ourselves to the zoning approach, just because we've already seen that these 3 beach communities kind of want to do their own thing, and at least one in particular, Black Point, has certainly has a articulated set of regulations on short-term rentals. And Giant's Neck is not far behind with the vacation rentals. So, and our feeling, I think, many of us on the board, myself, I will tell you, my one sort of sticking point was I'm a big believer in home rule, and so if a community wants something and it's legitimate and it's legal and so forth, then that should happen. It shouldn't be superseded by everyone else's community, trying to tell it what to do. So, and I think the only other issue for me was and we tried to get the answer of this many, many times. I know I've spoken to this commission about it, and I've spoken to the Board of Selectmen about it, but we never had the precise answer about the beach communities that do not have their own zoning, but that are incorporated. So they're incorporated, they have bylaws. many of them by their bylaws talk about short-term rentals and even have certain guidelines or suggestions. Oak Grove, for example, even Giants Neck Heights, as I recall. So the question becomes, is that sufficient? You know, or if you were to enact zoning regulations, does the arm of your zoning regulations cover those communities that do not have their own zoning, but that have their own bylaws? You can't, your arm doesn't touch, let's say, homeowners associations, or, you know, those, or covenants that run with the land kind of thing. But they could potentially, you know, control those other beach communities. Ann and I have heard, and also Bill, I think we had one meeting, I guess it was with Attorney Bleasdale at one point, and there was a suggestion that those are equivalent, or almost equivalent, so that maybe they have the right to do exactly what they're doing right now. So if Pine Grove, for example, says no to zoning, to short-term rentals, and it's not by zoning, but it's by their bylaws, that's okay. So I think you still need to have the answer to that question. You know, maybe Attorney Bleasdale can handle that, and, you know, town attorney should certainly handle that. But I think that will give you a better idea. And that was something we were also in between town attorneys. We first had Attorney Zamarka, who then semi-retired, retired. So then we never got the benefit of having any more legal counsel by the time we were doing this final report. So we never got that answer to that question. It's actually in here as a recommendation. Please get the answer to this. So I highly recommend that you do that. But that's kind of where we're at. But, you know, the reports are very helpful in terms of, you know, all of the exhibits to the reports have the zoning regulations that you may want to look at. So, of course, you know, some months pass, so there might be some minor changes, but I would highly recommend that you take a look at those.
Thanks.
I'm going to intrude for a moment. Does everybody have their copy of the report? And if those who aren't sure, can you let us know, and we'll make sure we get that to you so that you all at least have the material that's under discussion this evening?
Any more questions for Ann?
Were there a lot of towns that decided to not have short-term rentals?
No, I mean, not that I could tell. I mean, there was, you know, there were a couple. I mean, for example, Noank.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, and you have to, you know, you look at yourself as a town with all your unique features, and we certainly did do that on this committee. You know, we really took stock of the fact that there was a tradition of renting in the beach communities, but it wasn't necessarily prevalent throughout the whole town. So that you need to have a sense of what's happening in your own community. But even though there are many differences, town to town, state to state, and so forth, there's a uniformity of issue with short-term rentals, right? It's, you know, the clash of the right of the property owner to rent their property out, neighbors who are not happy about noise they hear, parking issues, and this type of thing. We did resolve the parking and noise issues, I thought, pretty well in this report. We do have ordinances on both noise and parking, which cover us very well. So, but I think, yeah, and you can, again, the ordinance approach, and I know it's something that some people have wanted. You know, I think that what we found as a group, at least, was to try to respect zoning as a method of land use regulation, and because of the uniqueness of East Lyme. So I'm still here if you need, you know, as you're discussing. Yeah, go ahead, Norm.
Might be a little premature, but I'm going to recommend that we form a committee. And I think that it would save us a lot of time and avoid duplication of effort, reinventing the wheel, whatever you want to call it, to have you sit on that on a committee.
Or it could be someone that pops in, yeah, as necessary. Sure, yeah. I mean, I could help you out there. Yeah, definitely, that's fine. Yeah, however you want to structure what you do, but yeah, you do not want to spin your wheels. And it took us a long time to, you know, cover all the towns in Connecticut and figure it all out. And and you have that plenty of that information. Then you can just update. As you see a direction you're going, then you can just update and see what's happening, you know. And see if anyone's using the state statute, which was enacted in '24, which expressly gives towns the ability to have an ordinance. Not like they didn't do ordinances before. You had the town of Bosworth, for example, and others have had ordinances.
Right, but with an ordinance, there is a downside, because then
Yes.
it's one size fits all. And
It
all of our
definitely is.
communities are different.
Yes,
They're hugely different.
Yes.
Especially our 8 beach communities, but
Yeah.
an ordinance
Right.
it's for everybody.
Yeah.
Regardless, so.
sometimes you can look at those ordinances for the substantive regulation that they contain, and not so much that they're an ordinance. So the Bosworth ordinance is a good example of nice, neat little package of regulations, doesn't overregulate, doesn't underregulate, in my mind, very sensible. So that's one to look at just for its content, you know. Yeah, for sure.
Well, we could have a couple people work with Bill, but before we talk about that, I think it would be good to get everybody's opinion on the board, kind of where the commission's going before we do that.
Yeah.
Just to
I
get
certainly
people-
prefer a zoning over ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
I think in this town, Debbie made a good point, that because we are such a diverse community, and we're a beach community, so when you're looking at Basra or, well, not knowing, they
Right.
kind of have a whole different thing going on.
Right, right. Yeah,
I'm okay with in mixed-use areas, too. They're already, mixed use, so I think having short-term rentals in mixed-use areas shouldn't be an issue.
I'll say one last point about an ordinance. Yeah, definitely, it has its limitations. In our recommendations, we did recommend that there be a companion ordinance to the zoning, and that is simply a registry. And that it could be done also through zoning if you want, but basically a registry, more for public safety purposes, and you can read about that in the report. But we found a place for an ordinance, but the dominant form of regulation was through zoning. So
I can start the discussion if you want. I can just tell you where I'm leaning, and it might be miles away from anybody else, but some of my takeaways were there are probably about 200 short-term rental owners in an area. We're about 20,000. A lot of those 200 people live out of town. I firmly believe that the owners are really the only ones that benefit from them. People that stay in them obviously do. I think the owners make an argument that they bring money into town, but a lot of people that stay in them don't stay here all day. They go to the casinos. I know one lady that stayed here and took an Uber to Madison every day. That's not necessarily you can't quantify that everyone spends their money here. Also, there's a shortage of houses for people that want to live here long term, and they would obviously spend money in town if people bought that homes for, long-term use. I think from the hearings, there are people that live next to short-term rentals where they advertise it's a party house, and that's been their experience with the loud noise next door. People have had trouble with parking, using their trash cans. The lady from Giant Neck Heights was afraid to let her girls wait for the bus because the house, she said, across the street was like a revolving door, and who knows where or who is renting. I don't know. There's a lot of I try to ask everyone I run across in town, and I haven't found a resident that really wants to live next to one. So my opinion is the beach communities that have their own zoning should continue doing what they see fit. I'm fine with them in mixed use also, because to me they are a business. But I think people should be able to move in some residential areas and be assured they're not going to have one open up next door. So I would be in favor of not allowing them in residential areas, just business, mixed use, and then the beach communities that have their own zoning. That's kind of where I lean right now. But I'm anxious to hear what everybody else thinks.
So are you saying to make sure that we have the regulations related to where they can be and,
That's what
Yeah.
I would
okay.
look at doing, but that's, my opinion.
I think in some ways that would be rather hard to enforce. I think this whole thing will be rather hard to enforce, but it's nice to know that there is something stated in the zoning regulations that we are at least keeping an eye on it. I know some towns, their short-term rentals are to be used for lodging purposes only, non-lodging uses including but not limited to parties, receptions, wedding, photo shoots, corporate retreats, and fundraisers. They prohibit that. It is only, they specifically say it's only for, not for lodging type uses. And I think that's something that might mitigate some of that you have.
There've been some that require an owner to be at the house when it's rented, which I think that's a great idea, but how do you even
How do you
enforce
it?
that?
Exactly.
That's what they do on Long Island. Has to be on our
Enforcement will probably be complaint driven. I mean, I don't see people driving around looking for
And
problems.
Mr. Mahal, how do they enforce it in Noank?
And because we're such a small, that particular community is so small, I think there are 18 units that are short-term rental is defined 30 days or more over there, so you can do that over 30 days. We have a clerk that monitors the websites for short-term rentals twice a week, looking to see if anything new pops up. We had 99% compliance. Right now we're at 100% compliance. But a little bit different community, a little bit smaller, easy to manage.
So,
Your point about complaint-driven is well taken, because typically in the zoning world, almost everything we do is complaint-driven when it comes more to the residential area. And the commercial is a little bit different. But if you decide to go forward and do something and draft something, I think if you do a committee, because a lot of the work has been done, and if you choose to do that, then the first issue that I see is dealing with the grandfather piece and then moving forward with that. And obviously all that's yet to be determined.
I would like to set up a subcommittee with the commission's obvious approval, and we can set up a subcommittee with whoever wants to be on it, and then we can maybe get some guidelines for it, and then bring it to a meeting and work with Bill with it, and just kind of see and just kind of form it. I think that the regulations are going to fall upon Bill's office, and I mean, they have a hard enough time right now. So I think that if we make these regulations really complex, they're really not going to be enforced. So obviously, we want to make rules that are actually enforceable.
Simple, yeah. keep it
Simple, yeah. We don't need to have this, 2-page thing or whatever. But I think my personal opinion is, from the stuff that I've read, is that they are a business.
Mm-hmm.
And to have a business in areas that are really tight, like Pine Grove, I mean, you can hear your neighbor, like, it's the most non-conformed neighborhood ever. But nobody wants, I mean, there's kids running around in all the areas and stuff, and they're used to that, and that's how they should be. Families should, when they buy a house, they should have the expectation that's what it's going to look like, not change it to where you're going to be surrounded by all these, businesses and this, small condensed residential areas.
well, there is a property rights issue we have to kind of deal with too. So, but I agree, simpler the better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You usually have an opinion.
And
love
I
to
do.
hear it. Yeah.
So, I agree, simplicity is huge. That zoning is the place where this needs to be addressed. I get it. It makes sense to me. And it makes sense to me to just eliminate short-term rentals totally in residential communities. It also makes sense to me to limit or negate any short-term rentals in, even though they are businesses, in a business community. I think short-term rentals have no place mixed in with the rest of the community, with the rest of the businesses in the community. That puts the onus of protection on the police department, on safety inspections, and on the business owners that are abutting these places. So in my humble opinion, popular or unpopular, I think we should just negate, there are no short-term rentals in town except for those in the beach areas that have it covered by their bylaws or whatever their system of governments is.
And the one thing that I think Mr. Mulholland's mentioned before, if we don't have them in like mixed use rather, it could inspire someone to open up a boutique hotel sometime or have more traditional, we could use more like hotels in town.
But it's all about where you put them,
Mm-hmm.
which,
I think we'd find out in a public hearing that we're going to get so many different opinions. If we try to severely limit them, I think we're going to get a lot of pushback.
or people will be grateful that it's over.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the simplicity part, because what I remember from the June meeting presentation that we had was you start getting into all that permitting, you get in the enforcement, and where does that come from? Who's going to do all that? So, I mean, that becomes costly to the town. So,
Do you agree there's a need?
well, I think it should be a zoning thing.
Mm-hmm.
But keeping it simple, and I'm still on the fence about whether, like, I'll just use my home as an example. I live on Dodge Pond. I can see that if I wanted to rent it out and a fisherman wanted to rent it and take his kayak out, I mean, I know the boat launch is there and everything, but I wouldn't want to be limited to whether or not I can rent my home. But I also get the point that it's a problem in certain areas, some of the beach communities where, it becomes like a big Musqueamcket, and it's noisy and loud and people can't enjoy their peace, so.
Well, I know Oh, I'm
Having
sorry.
lived in a beach community, some of the residents there are pretty rowdy.
Well, I know
You were rowdy? Oh,
Not me.
in Pine Grove, the police were called 89 times in the course of just a couple of months, and that ended tragically, where life was lost. I can only go by what the people that I heard at the public hearings, regular residents, that not one of them, well, two of them liked it. And the room was packed. And only two residents that actually lived in them actually spoke in favor of them at one of the public hearings.
Yes.
So,
I think we have a lot of exploring to do.
yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of the exploration has been done for like
Well, I know,
14
but
months.
I mean, on a zoning basis.
But who would want to volunteer?
I will.
I would.
So we have Kathy and Debbie. Would you like to work with? Bill?
Are you including Anna, as Norm has suggested?
You can
If she
include
would
the
like to.
alternates too. If I'm not mistaken, alternates can also be on a subcommittee.
I
Can they,
didn't
Bill?
see-
Well,
I'd
I
keep
would
it
suggest, with all
small
due
at
respect,
first.
you want to keep it small. A
Small.
lot of the work has been done, and Centaur could be helpful if you're going to move forward. So, with all due respect to everybody, and I like to be inclusive, but the bigger, the less productive, generally speaking, to get stuff done and scheduling and meetings and stuff.
I agree.
Well, staff can, it's, we've all looked at the reports. A lot of the work has been done. You just sort of need to choose a direction, clear up the grandfather piece, and putting together some daily regs is probably easier than one might think, because I think we're not the only town that's thought this through, and we often in the zoning world borrow from other communities and look for the best product that fits the needs of this community.
Why don't we go ahead then with Ann, Debbie, Kathy, work with Bill, and maybe come back with a recommendation?
And if you guys have any questions, give them to, well, anything that, yeah. Well, something in between the meeting or whatever, they can call Bill up and they can do it. If there's something that you guys feel like we need to ask or dig into, just let us know what it is and we'll do that.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Where are we? Minutes.
Thank you.
Did everyone get a chance to read the minutes, and do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of the November 20th meeting as written.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
One abstention. I don't see any old business, subcommittee reports, new business. Take it away, Nancy.
Okay. Memo to East Lyme Zoning Commission, to East Lyme Zoning Commission from William Mulholland, zoning official, we propose zoning regulation text amendment poultry dated December 2nd, 2025. As requested, below you will find the proposed text amendment to expand the existing zoning regulations governing the keeping of poultry. This change will permit this activity in R12 and R10 zoning districts, as it is not presently allowed. The zoning code currently regulates the use as follows in 4 of the 6 residential uses, with new language in yellow and existing language in black. So basically, RU 200, RU 120, and RU 80, RU 40 is as of right for 6 birds or less, as regulated in Section 25. In R12 and R10, the zone will be an as of right use. Section 25.5 control states, agricultural or farm poultry, 6 or less, in all zones, RU 200, 120, 80, 40, 12, and 10. Controls. 1. Use shall be on a lot not less than 1 acre. 2. In R12 and R10 zones, the minimum lot size required shall be 50% of the required lot size for the district. 3. No roosters permitted. 6. No more than 6 hens may be kept. 5. A chicken coop and enclosure or pen shall be required on all properties where chickens are kept. 6. Chickens are allowed only in the chicken coop and outdoor enclosure. Free-range activity is not permitted. 7. The coop shall accommodate not more than 6 chickens. The coop and coop yard may not be located in a front or side yard and shall not be visible from the street or neighboring property. Number 8. The coop shall be a minimum of 6 by 8 by 6 in height. In R12 and R10, the coop may be no less than 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet in height. That's in yellow. The coop enclosure shall be fenced. The coop and enclosure may not be located within the required setback of the underlying zone. 11. Any composting of waste shall comply with Connecticut's best management practices for agriculture. 12. Waste materials must be disposed of in a manner that will not cause odor, flies, or attract vermin. The coop and enclosure must be clean and odor-free, kept in a neat sanitary condition at all times, in a manner that will not disturb the use or enjoyment of neighboring properties. Note, a special permit is not required for uses under this section for 6 or less poultry. It is proposed to specifically modify the zoning regs as follows to permit the raising or keeping of 6 or less poultry in the R12 and R10 zoning districts. In the R12 zone, add the following new section. 6.1.6, poultry, 6 or less. See Section 25.5. In Section 6, R12 zone, amend the following section to read 6.2.2, agricultural or farm use, include in the raising of livestock or poultry more than 6. In Section 7, R10 zone, add the following new section, 7.2.6, poultry, 6 or less, see Section 25.5. So, do you want me to just, in a nutshell, this? In a nutshell, anybody can keep poultry in town if they so desire, as long as they follow the regulations, which are pretty much set up by best management practices.
Thank you. Any comments?
Nancy, you've made people very happy with this participation of the chicken regulations.
I think it really, there are so many people that keep chickens in town that are illegal. Let's just eliminate any stress that could possibly give Mr. Mulholland and find something else to stress him with.
That's just plain not possible. It's zoning.
If I'm understanding
So
this, then,
it's
if you
stress.
want more than 6 chickens, you need a special permit?
Yeah, and you need greater acreage. You'd be more an agricultural activity that's more appropriate in the RU 80. In areas where we typically have real farming, not that keeping this small few animals is not. So would you, Madam Chair, like me to move this to hearing, and I'll send out the referrals and we'll schedule this?
Does the commission want to make a motion?
I'm
Can
gonna
I
make
just
a
ask
motion
one
that-
question?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
So, if someone had less than an acre, could they get a special permit? And would it,
And have
maybe
more,
less
de-
chickens
depends
or-
what
or
zone
they-
they're in. In the more dense zones, it's less encouraged than it is where there's acreage and true farming,
Okay.
because there's a variety of reasons for it, and if you don't follow best management practices and you don't clean up, you'll be surprised at what little critters might show up in your basement or the neighbor's basement.
Peer pressure's a great thing.
Is everyone in agreement you'd like to move this to public hearing?
I make
Yes.
a motion that we move this to a public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain. The chickens will go forward.
So on June
Chickens
6th,
will
no,
fly.
June 8th, I mean, January 8th, is that our target date?
I've got to go look at the schedule, because that's already starting to fill up. I think we're doing the cell tower on January 8th.
Sometime in January.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Public delegations. Is there any, I don't see any public here. General public. Okay, zoning official, Mr.
I have
Mulholland.
nothing tonight.
Nothing tonight. Miss Hardy.
It's been a busy week,
All right.
and we have the extended holiday season approaching, so I will be brief. We had a very extensive meeting last night, well attended by the public. Every seat was full, standing room only. So 2 items of discussion. One, the proposed use of speed cameras by the police department. There would be, if we went ahead with this program, then there would be 3 cameras placed at various locations in town, most likely in the area of schools or other areas where there is a lot of pedestrian traffic. The money collected from fines that were were imposed would go directly to the town. So that would be a source of some income for us. There was quite a bit of discussion about concerns about privacy and what information would be kept and recorded. License plate numbers are photographed. This is not a program to specifically target overall speeding, but rather speeding in specific locations where there are, as I mentioned, there's a lot of off and on traffic, particularly in the school areas, and the signs do have to be posted that this is an area where cameras are in use. The information that's acquired is only kept for a short period of time, and then it goes away. So this is, that's the real intent of it. Most of the comments from the public were based on privacy issues and the concern about storage of personal information. The cameras are placed not to get pictures of the drivers. It's the speeding car. And the license plate number would then lead them to the specific driver. So as I said, there was a lot of concern, and particularly several board members concerned themselves about the issue of privacy and the accumulation of public.
When will you vote on the issue? Do you know when?
We haven't set a date. We may have, because of the interest and the number of questions that were raised, we might have a follow-up hearing.
Do you know off the top of your head how much it costs to get the cameras set up and synced or whatever they do with them?
There is a calculation, I don't want to say calculation, what do you call it when you keep a piece of machinery in, make sure that it's recording accurately?
Calibrate?
Yes, thank you. That would be a requirement that there be regular use of that to make sure that the cameras were recording accurately.
Can they move them around in different spots?
No. Once the spots are determined, they would remain until the next round of evaluation.
Do we have an estimate on the cost to initiate the program?
There is no cost. This is a state program.
Okay. Thank you.
So, and the chief of police was there to answer any questions, and there still are, I think there's still quite a bit of concern, so I don't see this being enacted within the next 30 or 60 days. If it goes into place, then it probably wouldn't happen until, February or so.
What was the police chief's opinion?
He thinks it's a good idea. Thinks it's a good program, which targets a specific audience, a specific section of town where there are problems. And I think the basic point is if it just saves one life. And people aren't paying attention to our regular speed limit signs. So I think that I raised the question of when was the last time we adjusted speed limits signs. There isn't anybody that drives on Flanders Road at 35 miles an hour.
Nobody.
So, exactly. And especially with the construction, roads that we had very light usage. Now people with GPSs with the construction know how to get on all of these small side roads, which really weren't built to handle that amount of traffic. So there are a number of issues coming up with this whole general area. Then we also heard presentation on the use of seed money, I believe is the term that's used. This is a new grant program set up by the State Department of Education to focus on expansion of special education needs in the town, to enable them, to give them some extra funding, to enable them to either enhance current funding or to set up additional programming. This is only available for special education programs, and the town of East Lyme received $63,300, which I was pretty surprised about. And we always like to look at comparisons and see how we're doing with other towns. So our friendly neighbors, Waterford got $3,930.
How much?
$3,930.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, you slime.
Somebody's a good grant writer.
That's right.
So the figures are rather interesting. I think that there were a couple of towns on here that got $200. So we did pretty well. So I think that's the only thing that I have for tonight. They can't wait until another meeting. So I'm happy to answer any questions, if I have the answers to your questions.
I think sounds like we're good. Thank you.
Brevity's always appreciated.
Appreciate you, Mrs. Hardy. Ann,
Yes, under new business also, sorry, I missed one. Next time we meet, or is it when in January? We'll have the application of Jerry Locken for East Lyme Parks and Recreation for a special permit under section 20.1.2F of the East Lyme zoning regulations to construct an ADA accessible trail and improve the existing parking area for Darrow Pond at property located at 16 Mostaway Road, East Lyme, Assessor Map 40.0, Lot 5. And I think, Mr. Mulholland, you'll schedule that hearing.
I will, thank you.
So they need to come in, I think, so they don't miss getting a grant. Let's see, Miss Edwards, you'll be going to the January planning meeting for us, I believe. And do we know when that is? We may not know that yet. You can check, or we can check with planning if you have any questions in January. Thank you. I just have a couple questions, actually. Is someone looking at when, I know every so many years the zoning officials have to take training?
Yes, Jess was all over that.
Oh, thank you. Okay. And also, do we need to refile bylaws on a yearly basis coming up?
I need to refresh on that. I don't think you do, but let me refresh on that.
Okay, just in case we do. Thank you.
I have to
And-
say something because I just can't. Mrs. Markovitz was supposed to go January. This coming up December. So I'm switching with her.
Okay.
So I'm going for December next week.
Okay.
I'm in my
That
religious
sounds
mode.
good. Well, I just wanted to thank everybody, and I hope everyone has a really nice holiday.
You too.
Thank you.
And
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yep.
Let's adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
There we go.
All in favor?